Welcome to a Community Partners interview where we explore the organizations, opportunities, and resources that look to make change in our daily lives. I'm your host, Nafisah Anif, and you're listening to Voices for Ability Radio, all abilities, all the time. Today I'm joined by Melissa Suggitt, who is the Director of Marketing and Operations for Special Olympics Manitoba. Special Olympics Manitoba's mission is to enrich the lives of Manitobans with an intellectual disability through sport. Their vision is that sport will open hearts and minds towards people with intellectual disabilities and create inclusive communities all across Canada. Thank you so much for joining us today, Melissa.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. So tell us a little more about you and what inspired you to work at Special Olympics Manitoba. Why work with individuals with disabilities?
That's a great question. I have always kind of been drawn to the community. So even as a youth, I volunteered with individuals with autism or people with an intellectual disability. Had a family member who participated in Special Olympics growing up. So I saw the impact that Special Olympics programs can have on a community, all the way from the athlete to their family to the greater community, and just how incredible it is that, through sport, we are bridging those gaps and we are bringing communities together in a more fulsome and inclusive way.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thank you for that. And while doing my research, I saw that you have a couple of programs that you offer. Can you tell us a little more about those programs?
Yeah, so Special Olympics Manitoba, we do offer programs in both the recreational pathways and the competitive pathways. So every athlete would start at a community program level, and it's really up to them if they want to continue in that sport for fun, friendship, and fitness, or if they'd like to, move on to higher opportunities in competition and move their way through our provincial games, national games, and potentially international games. So we offer quite a wide variety of sport opportunities. And on top of that, we do also offer some health programming and some leadership programming. And this programming starts at the age of 2, all the way through to some of our oldest athletes who are in their 70s. So we really are offering programs in many communities across the province that capture all abilities and all kind of age groups and skill levels.
Oh, wow. That is amazing to hear.
Mhm.
What type of sports do you offer at Special Olympics Manitoba?
Yeah, we offer both summer and winter sports here in Manitoba. We have 18 official sports. In summer, you'll see things like powerlifting, swimming, basketball, bowling, bocce, soccer, and beyond. And then the winter sports are things like snowshoe, cross country, speed skating, alpine ski, and a few others. All of that information is on our website if anyone was interested in learning more. But yeah, 18 sports and offered as far north as Thompson in Manitoba, down through South Central, and then kind of east and west. So we really do have quite a nice array of programming for athletes. And I think we're upwards of 140 community programs that we run.
Wow. And this is only within the province of Manitoba. Do you branch off into other provinces at all?
Yeah, so the nice thing about Special Olympics is that it is a global movement. So we here in Manitoba, we offer our programming at the Manitoba level, but then we have Special Olympics Canada, who oversees all the different chapters here in the country, and they provide our national games, and that's where athletes from coast to coast get to come together and compete. And then Special Olympics International is kind of the big umbrella we all fall under, and that was started by the Eunice Kennedy Shriver. And so they are the ones that put on those world games that bring together, over 190 countries to participate together.
Oh, wow. Okay. So,
Quite a large reaching organization. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I'm speechless just thinking of the impact that this has,
Hmm.
globally, not just in Canada itself, but around the world. Do any of your athletes who take part in Special Olympics Manitoba programs, do they participate in the, let's say, Paralympics that everyone else knows about globally?
That's a very good question, and the answer isn't as simple as you would think. So, Paralympics and Special Olympics are different organizations, and there's a few key factors. One of those is that Special Olympics athletes must have an intellectual disability to participate, whereas Paralympics, it could be either physical or intellectual. And the other thing is that we do something called divisioning. So, we keep our athletes within a certain percentage of skill, age, and kind of experience level to ensure that every competition is meaningful for them. So you'll see kind of no more than maybe 8 athletes in a division, whereas you go to a Paralympic or an Olympic setup and you're seeing, 20, 30 athletes might be participating in an event. So that's kind of where we differentiate. But we do have athletes that participate at the Paralympics. They do have a section for our athletes to participate. So that's why it's not such an easy answer. But, overall, we are 2 very different organizations.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that because I was wondering whether they are the same. So I'm glad to know that they are not the same.
Yeah, no, and that question comes up a lot because of the Olympics in our names. Most of that just means we both follow kind of that sport pathway, that Olympic pathway.
So I'm assuming then, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you would offer tournaments every year as opposed to every 4 years, like the traditional Paralympics?
Yeah, so for us, we do run on a cycle as well for our competitive pathways. And so then we are on a 4-year cycle when it comes to our high level competitions. So our provincial games and our national and then international games, those are on 4-year cycles for summer and winter, where you're seeing the switch every 2 years between summer and winter. But here in Manitoba, we provide regional, local competitions every year so that our athletes, both recreational and competitive, do have opportunities regardless of kind of where it is in the cycle for the higher level competitions.
Okay, perfect. What different levels of sport are there, and how could someone find their sport?
Oh, that's a great question too. The easiest thing I would say is please reach out to us, and we can have those conversations one to one. We're so focused on making sure that our athletes find somewhere that they feel comfortable, secure, where they feel like they belong, and they're getting meaningful participation out of it. So whether they want to go kind of that recreational pathway or the competitive pathway, if they don't necessarily know exactly what sport they'd like to participate in, I do highly recommend they just kind of chat with us first so that we can get a sense of where they might fit. But we do offer sports like bowling and bocce and others that are a little bit more focused on the all abilities versus maybe a higher level, track or soccer athlete might be more skill based there. So.
Okay. And how would someone try different sports?
So the easiest way to do that would probably be to join. I would look for a multi-sport. And what that is there are some programs in other regions of the province outside of Winnipeg who kind of run multi-sport programs where they're participating in a few different sports over the year in their one club so that they kind of get maximum out of that. And then the other thing would be to even just come out to a competition, come out and see what that's like, come to a games, kind of get a sense for how that feels. But otherwise, yeah, just jump right into your community. There's definitely something for everyone. But again, I really highly recommend that they would reach out to us so that we can get them started. They do have to sign up to participate in our programming. So.
Okay, that's good to hear. And can you tell me what safe sport is all about?
Yes, absolutely. So safe sport is definitely nationally at top of mind, but here in Manitoba, they recently passed legislation called the Protecting Youth in Sport Act. So, what this means is that all provincial sport organizations here in Manitoba do have to follow those rules and regulations and adopt those policies, which we have done. That was as of April 1st. And this is to ensure that all athletes can participate in the safest and most secure way that they can. This is an environment that's free of bullying, harassment. It focuses on inclusion and safety, and we do take that very seriously. We do incorporate safe sport into kind of every aspect of what we do, or really make sure that our athletes, our coaches, our volunteers, everybody has the right training, the right resources and tools to know one, how to participate safely in sport, and two, what to do in case they do need to make a report. So yeah, we do focus very heavily on the safety of our athletes, both mentally, physically, and emotionally.
Oh, wonderful. I love the sense of community. I love the sound of impact that this is making throughout the province. It's really amazing to hear.
We're very proud of our programming, and we have over 2,500, creeping up to 3,000 athletes in our programming. So we're just so proud of what we've done and how we've grown these past few years.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now, I know you mentioned that athletes for Special Olympics Manitoba need to have an intellectual disability, but are there any other restrictions to the programs, such as, for example, age or caregivers, family members only, things of that nature?
Sure. Yeah. No, we try to be as barrier free as possible. Part of that is that we our programs are offered at no cost to decrease those financial barriers, and then that's also why we do differentiate between the recreational pathways and the competitive pathways, because recreational athletes can start as young as 2. We really want to capture that joy of sport and that joy of movement early on. And then they go all the way through till, like I said, in their 70s. There are certain stipulations, for example, to compete at a provincial games, they may have to be a certain age, like 13, I believe, is the age limit to be able to participate at that higher level. And again, that also just is for safety reasons and for making sure that they're at the right level for experience and skill level to be participating in such a high level competition. But otherwise, most of our sports begin at the age of 8, unless it's a specific youth program, which is the age of 2. So we really do try to capture like that entire spectrum of age.
Okay. And without using any names, could you share a success story with me?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like what supports were put into place when someone asked for help?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have such a variety of examples that I could give. A very small concrete example would be for our swimming, for example. We do have athletes that may have a physical disability that goes along with their intellectual disability. So we focused on making that as accessible as possible. And we now work with partners to have Hoyer lifts and other accessibility pieces for lots of our programming. So that's like a small piece of how we try very hard to make it accessible for everyone. But if I'm going to talk about an impact, I do have another specific example of an athlete who joined a youth program when he was 4. And he is now 10 years old and was our ambassador for one of our national campaigns last year. He went out and he spoke about how without Special Olympics programs, he would not have found his sense of confidence. He wouldn't have found the friendships that he's found. He wouldn't have been able to, I'm sorry, it gets me going a little bit. He wouldn't have been able to feel like he could participate in such a fulsome way. And he and his mother can attribute all of that to Special Olympics programming, the sense of community, the sense of belonging, and truly just how inclusion forward we are. So I love to hear stories like that where someone may have been struggling to make friends at school or struggling in their personal life. And then through our programming, through the support from their coaches, the volunteers, and the sport, they now find that they are living happier, more secure, and successful lives. And that's just one athlete of many who have very similar stories.
I personally love those stories too because it's one thing it's one thing to hear when an adult overcomes these challenges, but it's something else entirely when you hear it from children.
Mhm. Yeah, agreed. Yeah.
And children are so much more perceptive than we give them credit for most of the time. It's just it's truly an inspiration to witness their growth and
hmm Yeah, to have a front seat to that and to know that, you know, our programming is what's making those impacts. There's really no feeling like it.
it's so true. And even as I said that it's different for adults, but even some adults too, as children they were never able to really come out of their shell, and they were never really able to achieve the potential that they could have.
Agreed. We do, again, without naming names, there are a couple of athletes who have taken on more of a leadership position in our organization that have said pretty much exactly that. They were maybe late diagnosed on the spectrum or didn't know that they had an intellectual disability growing up. And as an adult, they just feel so incredibly grateful to have found their way to us. And it's hard for them sometimes to look back and see how hard life maybe was and didn't have to be, but to know that we're there and they can still find us at any age is just, again, something that feels so impactful. And we're just grateful that, the word gets out and we're able to help improve those lives.
Exactly. And then they find others who are in the same situation or similar circumstances as they are. It's a real true sense of community, definitely.
Yeah.
So are there any events coming up for Special Olympics Manitoba?
Yeah, we have quite a few things on the go right now. It's funny. I always wonder when things will slow down and they don't, but I would have it no other way. We do have over 100 participants on our provincial team who are heading to the National Summer Games in August in Medicine Hat, put on by Special Olympics Canada. So we've been training and we just had a training camp for that. So they will be working very hard these next few months towards that goal, and we'll be having a send-off celebration in June. I believe it'll be June 18th. More information will be released on our website, and we're going to celebrate the team at a public event. So that's coming up. We do have some golf tournaments, and then our last two polar plunges of the year, which are a fundraising event for our organization, will be happening in Gimli and in Steinbach in May and in June. And then, we've got tons going on this summer, lots of competitions. In the fall, we head into more of our heavy fundraising events. So please check our calendar. We're very, very excited about this team heading to the National Games this summer.
Wow, polar plunges. I'm just thinking of the fact that it's just becoming spring. And that is true. Manitoba is usually colder.
It is Manitoba. It's cold.
I'll have to pass on that one.
That's fair. It is fun, but I get it.
I could do the other sports, but maybe not the polar plunge.
Maybe one day we'll get you. You know what? We'll take it.
Maybe I'll stand and watch everyone else. What is the one thing that you see happening over and over again to individuals with disabilities that shouldn't be happening, and how do we stop it?
Um, from my position and what I experience, I think the biggest thing for myself and for what we see in the organization is that sometimes you find that when they use their own voice, they're not listened to. And I think that that's an incredible oversight socially. Yeah. We work very hard, and in the past few years we've been working very hard to make sure that when we put out messaging or when we have a big campaign, something like that, our athletes are the ones using their voices to talk about it. Opportunities to MC events, and we're really trying to just kind of put that spotlight on the fact that our athletes know themselves best, they know their struggles best, they know their successes best. And we really need to listen to them. Just because they have an intellectual disability does not mean they're not a person, that they don't have feelings and thoughts and goals and abilities and skills. And that is something that I think we all could do a little bit better, is to listen.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. It's one thing when someone, there's a lot you could say actually with this one, because when someone has a voice and that voice is either silenced or just ignored, it's just a disaster.
There is. Yeah. 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 So we are very proud of our athletes. They are athletes first and foremost. So we see that struggle, and we are doing what we can to really help lift all boats.
Wow. Okay. Now, if someone wanted to become a member or a volunteer with Special Olympics Manitoba, what is the process for joining as a member or a volunteer?
course. First, I would say please do. We are nothing without our volunteers. They are the backbone of our organization, and there are a variety of ways you can get involved. If you're interested in coaching, you could sign up to coach. You could sign up to just be a program volunteer, which means you're helping out at programs and keeping things running for our athletes. We have events that we need volunteers. We have competitions that need things, everything from timer to marshalling to hospitality services. And then if somebody was interested in getting involved at a higher level, we have a board and some committees to join. And the easiest way to find any of that information is to go on our website and click on Become a Volunteer, or get involved. And we would be happy to walk you through from there, or really just reach out to the program department. And again, all that information is on our website, but we encourage and welcome anybody who would like to join the movement.
And just circling back a little bit to some of the events that you said were coming up. You mentioned that there were some fundraising events coming up in the later half of the year after September. What sort of fundraising activities does Special Olympics Manitoba put on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sure. In the fall, we do actually have our largest fundraising event that we have, which is the Winnipeg Wine Festival. Actually, not a lot of people are aware that the Winnipeg Wine Festival is even a fundraiser, and that it is our largest fundraiser. So that would be a big one. And that's where there's some public tastings, there's a gala. So we do have kind of a heavy schedule at the end of September there. We have things like our truck ride, which is where a bunch of truck drivers in the trucking community come together to raise funds, and then they do a circle of the perimeter, honking their horns, waving signs, and really shining a light on Special Olympics and our athletes. And then as we head into the holidays, we have things like our donation campaigns and some other smaller events as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. What would you say is the one thing that everyone needs to know about Special Olympics Manitoba?
I think the one thing I would like everyone to know about our organization is the joy that is felt through sport. I think there is quite a lot of volunteers and athletes and staff who would tell you that there's nothing quite like going to one of our events, whether that's a competition or a fundraising event with our volunteers. There's nothing like it. The joy that you feel from the athletes, the spirit of the community, it's really such a moment for everyone. It's felt at your heart, it's felt in your heart, and it's just an incredible moment of solidarity every time we come together. And so I think what I would love people to know is just how joyful it is to be a part of Special Olympics.
It sounds like the true spirit of participation, for sure.
Yeah, honestly, the spirit of sport is never shown so strongly than at a Special Olympics event. I've seen athletes stop at the finish line, not cross it, and go back to help someone up and cross together. You don't see that in generic sport as often. So I think that what Special Olympics does best is really show how to be a true ambassador of sport here in Canada.
That is, wow. For someone to do that, for someone to basically be at the finish line and watch a competitor, an opponent, fall or stumble behind them, knowing fully well that if that did not happen to that particular person, they would have been ahead and they would have reached the finish line. For them to come back and help that person to cross, that is, the biggest example of, yeah, it's incredible and it's such camaraderie.
Yeah, it's incredible. It is. Yeah. I did want to note, so our athlete oath that our athletes say before every competition is, let me win, but if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. And we really try, truly, here in our organization, in my own personal life, I always try to be brave in the attempt, because that is really where it matters, is the trying, not the winning. The winning's great, don't get me wrong, but it's the trying.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Now, if listeners are looking for more information, how can they reach out to you?
course. Specialolympics.mb.ca is our website. It should have most of the information they're looking for, but I am also so happy to connect with anybody who's wanting to talk about Special Olympics and getting involved. And I can be reached by email, and that's also on our website as well.
Wonderful. Wow. Well, Melissa, we're out of time.
Oh, that went so fast.
It did. It really did go very fast. But thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure speaking with you. It was amazing hearing your story and hearing about the influence of Special Olympics Manitoba, the community impact, just everything. I was really happy to speak with you today.
Thank you so much for letting me come on and just spread the word and the joy of Special Olympics Manitoba.
No problem. Of course. Well, friends, this concludes another Community Partners interview. Let's care, let's share, because we've all been there. I'm your host, Nafisah Anif, signing off until next time.